Welcome to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. I'm Alicia Jay, and today I'm here with a very familiar face from the We Need to Talk broadcast. She's been a broadcaster for years and obviously an Olympic gold medalist. She has those gold medals on her, you guys. It's Summer Sanders. Please welcome Summer to the show.
Thanks, Alicia. I watch you all the time. You're doing such a good job on this show. So very honored to be a part of it today.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm honored to be with you here today. We have so many things to talk about when it comes to the Winter Olympics. It's always going. It's something that I'm learning more about every day. But first, I know you just came back from NBA All-Star, and
Yeah.
it was a little different this year. You know, I worked in the NBA for about 13 years with the Golden State Warriors, and I've been to many All-Stars, but I saw that there was a new format this year. They have like the team stars, which were the young Americans, and then the team stripes, which were like the veteran Americans, and then Team World, and they were playing against each other. It was very interesting, and I wanted to know what you thought about it.
Well, I mean, here's the bottom line. I love that the NBA is trying to think of new ways to connect to their fans. And obviously, it was an NBC February, right? NBC had the beginning of the Olympic Games. You started with the opening ceremony straight into the Super Bowl. And then smack dab in the middle of the Olympics and NBC's broadcast, we have the All-Star Game. So why not kind of bring it all together and create sort of this Olympic atmosphere at the NBA All-Star Game? And you were there. I started with the NBA the end of the 90s. You came in a little bit after me, but right when I was there was when it was becoming an international league. So I think now we look at the league and go, this is amazing how international it is. It didn't used to be like that. So I like the fact that the NBA is thinking differently. How can we connect to our fans? How can we connect to the world in a way that's different and trying new things? I I found it a little confusing on the Saturday night. They had this I don't know if you saw it, but it was like veterans with the young guys. So, and it was even like Ron Harper with his kids. And then you had Allen Houston with the Knicks, with Brunson. But it was hard to follow some of the new stuff that they were bringing together. But my favorites are always three-point contest and the dunk contest. And and I recognize that these guys have to be brave and bold to go out there and even agree to be a part of these contests because you're putting yourself out there, right? And I felt like, of course, three-point contest was amazing. They showed up, they were making shots left and right. It was awesome. And the showmanship of the dunk contest, even though in the end, the final dunk didn't work out. But I felt like Carter and Rashad, they were showmen, they were amazing, and it's never easy to show up in that moment. I think it was Kashad. Did I say his name wrong? I think it's Kashad Johnson. I kept thinking to myself, they're saying Keyshawn Johnson. No, it's basketball.
Yes, definitely basketball. And when it comes down to the new formats, it's going to take some time to get into that and to get used to it. But I do like that they are trying something new. They should be, right? You don't want to be stale or stagnant. So we'll definitely keep tabs on what the NBA is doing. But Summer, we have to talk about why we're here, and that's the Winter Olympics. I see you with your jacket that you have on. I'm a little jealous. I'm like, I didn't come fitted like that for the show.
You had to be part of the swim team in 1992, Alicia, to get this beauty. It was sort of a one size fits all mentality. I think three of me could fit in here, but this was a jacket that you wore when you paraded out for your event. You had a different jacket if you made it to the podium. But yeah, the Winter Games are so fun. My husband is a three-time Olympian in alpine skiing, and my son is a ski racer at a high school that's talked about quite a bit during these alpine events. It's called Burke Mountain Academy. It's where Mikaela Shiffrin went. Otley McGrath, who was winning the slalom, the men's slalom, up until the final run. His dad, Felix McGrath, is one of the coaches for that school. But it's for me, I'm connected to the Winter Games almost even more so now than I am the Summer Games because of these alpine events. but I've loved it. So let's talk about it. Ask me some questions.
Well, you mentioned Mikaela Shiffrin. She's someone that I definitely wanted to talk about because coming into these Olympics, she was very much one of the favored players to win. However, she's missed the podium. She's missed the podium for, I think they said in a team event, she finished fourth after slalom run and was 15th out of 18 skiers. Her medal drought, unfortunately, continued with giant slalom finishing in 11th, was 0.92 behind Federica Brignone, who captured her second gold medal of these Olympics, and we'll be talking about her a little bit later. But when it comes to Mikaela, she's had a lot go on in her career. Not only injury, that's a huge one. Her last Olympics were also disappointing in a lot of ways for her. But most recently, she was punctured in her abdomen in one of her runs.
That was a weird injury.
A weird injury, and also something that I'm sure you do not forget. So when it comes to Mikaela, what do you think that it is? Is it really, that mental kind of fortitude? PTSD was mentioned here. And also a lot of people are saying that the actual, snow, just the event in general is just really hard to ski right now. So what are your thoughts when it comes to Mikaela?
Well, first of all, Mikaela is the best to ever ski, man or woman. She's the winningest skier on the World Cup. And my husband and I looked it up. Ingemar Stenmark, which she broke his record for the most wins on the World Cup. He only won 2 Olympic medals. Both of them were gold. Mikaela has won a gold medal, and she did that in 2014 in Sochi when she was only 18 years old. But my husband describes ski racing. It's pretty interesting. He says a lot of ski racing, of course, is skill, but a lot of it is luck. And we've seen that specifically in the men's slalom with the snowstorm that came in and what position you ran. And you probably heard it a lot. Was the sun shining? The course got faster. Maybe the course got faster later, or was faster earlier, and you were earlier or later in the lineup. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity and you execute. And in ski racing, there's so many variables that come into play. So opportunity is sometimes there and sometimes it isn't. Cortina, where the women are skiing, is a World Cup stop for downhill and Super G. Those are your 2 speed events. Mikaela Shiffrin dominates in tech events, specifically slalom, which she did ski in the combined, and GS. But they don't ever have a World Cup stop in Cortina. And part of the reason why, specifically for slalom, is the hill is not technically difficult enough. So she's skiing on a hill that's actually a bit easier to execute, and she's not used to that. She's the most skilled technical skier. She likes steep stuff that's difficult and hard, and this isn't that. So it, in some ways, possibly it evens out the field, but it certainly isn't the course that she's used to. I don't think it's nerves. I don't think it's snow. Sometimes the Olympics line up and you are the best and you ski the best. But look at on the men's side. Odermatt dominates. He's absolutely amazing. And Von Allman came in and won 3 gold medals. And he's even like, that just blew my own mind. This is unbelievable. So it is a part of the beauty of the Olympic Games. And yes, these World Cup skiers will just go on after the Olympics to their next World Cup stop, and it will just be another day. These Olympics do mean something to them. And so I'm going to tell you right now, she for sure is itching for a medal, and she wants it. Nerves are not getting in the way. She has so much experience, and she wins. Her winning percentage is better than anybody ever. So it's just that this is a different type of course, and she's used to tougher hills.
Well, one thing's for sure, she has one more event to ski, so we will be keeping track of that. And another thing we'll be keeping track of is women's hockey. We're going to talk all about it when we get back after this break. Welcome back to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. I'm Alicia Jay here with Summer Sanders, and we're going to talk about women's hockey. Right now, they're actually playing, and they are doing, women's hockey is amazing. We'll get into it. Yeah, they're dominating for sure. But I have to talk to you, Summer, because this is something that everyone has been talking about, and that is the judging, particularly the judging in ice skating. So Chalk and Bates, they brought home silver, which is nothing to scoff at, right? Silver medal is amazing. But when it came to the judging, the French pair that won, the French pair that actually won, they were judged by the actual French judge and scored 7 points higher than Chalk and Bates. And a lot of people that watched both of the actual performances by these pairs really thought that the US had it and that they won. I actually watched both performances, and I thought that while they were both beautiful, there were some visible mistakes in the French run, right? And people, I did. They were very small, but comparatively, they matter, right? And when you look at the judge doing 7 points higher, right? The French judge doing 7 points higher from a person who is still admittedly, and I've said this in other pods, learning about all of this, right? And I think a lot of people are. It doesn't look right, and I don't really like it, right, when I see this. But as somebody who's been watching the Winter Olympics, talking about the Winter Olympics, and have been judged in the Summer Olympics, what are your thoughts on, was this right? Was it wrong? Does judging need to change when it comes to the Winter Olympics?
Well, I was never judged. So that's why, I don't think I mentally could have been in a judging sport. So I don't.
Oh, true. Yes.
Yeah. So could you imagine if I was swimming and I had my time, but then also I had to wait for the judges to decide whether they liked the way I swam? I just liked looking at touching the wall and looking back and seeing it was very black and white. So, but here's the real question. First of all, these are amazing athletes. And I thought all three of the pairs, first, second, third, bronze, silver, and gold, were outstanding. And I'm going to tell you what I loved about this sport in particular and what they got right. Because our first segment, we were talking about how the NBA is trying to connect with fans and what do the fans want? And how can All-Star Game be better? There was a show on Netflix leading into these Olympics called Glitter and Gold. And it was like 3 episodes, and it followed these ice dancers. And I watched it. And I didn't know a lot about ice dancing. No clue. I knew that they didn't throw their partner. There wasn't all this throwing going on. And it was very there was just emotion and feeling, and you had to sell this love story. But I got to know all of these athletes and their stories. And it was emotional, and it was awesome. And it was everyone supporting one another. It's a very close-knit community. So then when I watched the actual competition, I had a little backstory going into it. And I thought both teams, the French team and the US team, I thought they skated really, really well. What I loved about the French team was just their beauty and their connection. And I found myself not watching their skates or their edge or their blade. I don't know. There was something about it. So yeah, I don't like judge sports, and I don't like that a French judge would be way higher. The US judge for the US team was higher. I don't like that, but I don't understand judge sports. I just know that, to what Madison said, we put everything out on the ice. We gave it everything we had, and they got the silver. And I know that they were disappointed, and I feel for that moment and that emotion that they would have for that.
Yeah, it's hard for me too, as somebody who played basketball. So, we obviously had refs.
Can you imagine if you were judged?
I wouldn't say that there was any judgment, but I would say that it's hard for me to think of anyone who's judging a performance that would have an emotional stake in it, right? And so I know that there has to be some kind of way to just look at that and see if there is, just like you talked about, how the NBA is trying new things. Maybe there is a new way to look at this judging system, because if I have a deep stake in the French because I am French and I'm a judge from there, like I'm probably going to be a little biased. So I don't know. It's something that I'm still learning too, Summer. But I
No,
personally,
the French judge that was, so they disregard high and low. So it did affect in that there wasn't another high score for the French that would
right.
get knocked. Like the French just said, hey, I'm going to be the high score and it's going to be knocked out. So it wasn't, my understanding is it wasn't tallied into the end product. And just the same for the US side, the US judge was knocked out for them because they were the high score.
Right. But it still affects it in some way because the score is
Totally.
still judged as the highest. And so I don't know, there's just something there to be explored. And I'm sure people will definitely be doing that as we go on, in the
Yes.
Olympics for years to come. But one thing that we are watching closely right now at the current moment is the
Hockey.
U.S. Yes, the U.S. women's hockey team. They're playing Sweden currently. Right now, they're up 5-0 in the second period intermission. It actually might be in play now. I'm not exactly sure. We're covering it within our notes for anyone who's
Okay.
watching.
Yeah.
But regardless, they're up 5-0 right now, and a lot of people
Yeah.
are calling this team the best women's hockey team of all time. It's a beautiful blend. When you watch this team, it's a beautiful blend of veteran leadership and young talent. Whereas, a lot of people have been, Canada and US are always the two teams that people talk about, and they're saying that Canada kind of didn't do that. They leaned into the PWHL talent that they have very heavily, and didn't really do kind of like a blend like the US did. And you can see that the US are just dominating. They've outscored opponents 31-1, including Sweden through two periods. The only goal that they allowed was a breakaway in the opener versus Czechia. And so when you look at these teams and how they're dominating, do you think anyone could beat this US team? You think it's their goal to have, Summer?
Yeah, I mean, I think I like it the way you said that better than their goal to lose. 100%. And I think, these women care about hockey and they love hockey. So of course they want, this is dreamy for them, 31-1, but ideally for the health of hockey, they want their opponents to be scoring a little bit more. We want more parity in all of our women's sports for the health of our sports. But yeah, I learned just, for example, I learned the heartache of a silver medal in a team sport through the women's hockey team in Sochi in 2014. And I think they matched up against Canada. I don't remember who they were playing, but I know that they lost and they were heartbroken and they couldn't be immediately happy right after the game to receive their silver medal. They had, sad faces and the media was sort of like, are you not happy to win your silver? And I had one of the players explain it to me. Summer, we play in the gold medal match and we lose to get the silver. And it's very difficult as a competitive athlete to change your emotions in that moment and be like, okay, I'm satisfied. Losing that game when gold was within reach. So I think those veterans probably hold on to some of those moments, if any of them. I think Hillary Knight is from 2014. But they remember when they didn't win and they weren't dominating completely. And that will drive them, I hope, into, the moment where they fulfill their dreams and stand atop the podium.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way. It certainly looks that way. When you have, that stat, I just have to say it again, outscoring your opponents 31-1 is unreal. Is absolutely
Yeah.
unreal. I do want to say one thing before we go. I want to give a shout out to Erica L. Ayala, who is my co-host in Black Rosie Media. They're doing some great coverage out there when it comes to hockey in general, both men's and women's. And I really want the coverage. We're sitting here talking about women's hockey, but I want the coverage of the sport to be enhanced. They're in the middle of the Olympics. There's a lot of written pieces about it, but I didn't see a lot of video when it came to just breaking down the game, talking, what's going on in all of the hockey. And I really want that to improve, but I had to give a shout out to anyone who's covering it, anyone who's covering the Winter Olympics in general, but especially Black Rosie Media. Erica L. Ayala, you guys are doing your thing. Super proud of you, and just can't wait to see that, just like the boom that is happening that we've seen in women's sports, that it continues within sports like hockey. So let's do that. Let's lift
Do
up
it.
that coverage when it comes to women's hockey.
Find
And
a
we're going to
game and go
continue.
watch it. Know the names, cheer for the names, buy the merch, right?
Absolutely. Do all the things. We can't buy that jacket, unfortunately, Summer. We can't buy that jacket, but buy all the merch and do all the things when it comes to the Winter Olympics, because they deserve all the coverage and all the breakdown and analysis. And we're going to continue to do all of those things as well when we come back right after the break. Welcome back to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. I'm Alicia Jay, here with Summer Sanders, and we have talked a lot about what's going on in the Olympics, but there are so many different storylines, Summer, that are out there, so many heartfelt things that are happening. And I was just wondering, what is your favorite storyline so far that you've seen?
Well, I love when the country, the host country, shines. And we have been huge fans as a ski family of Federica Brignone. And we watched her race in April when she raced in her Italian nationals. Now, keep in mind, she is one of the best racers on the World Cup. She did not really need to go to her Italian nationals, but she did it because she loves her country. And she had a horrific crash there. Horrific. Broke her leg. And our heart broke in that moment, thinking, oh my God, she's on the cusp of her home Olympics. She's probably never going to make it back. I mean, I really didn't think she would. And I think a lot of people, maybe even she did. But no, she held out hope. And somehow, some way, she goes and she wins that Super G. I mean, this is a hill that she knows so well, but she is a GS racer at heart. And then she goes and she races her giant slalom and she wins again. So 2 gold medals from this woman who had a horrific injury less than a year ago. I mean, who does that? So, and then on, the US side, I just felt like what Jess Diggins did in cross country and what she has been doing for a very long time just needs to be recognized. She won the bronze, but every other day of the week on that cross country World Cup tour, she is winning. She is doing new things for the USA that have never been done before. It's really a sport that's been dominated by Norway. And just the fact that she's out there with bruised ribs. I mean, who here has had a bruised or broken rib? Imagine doing a cross country race where so much of it is your arms and your upper body. And the fact that she just always seems to show up with this perfect blend of glitter and grit. And you can't help but feel that. And those are these emotions that we all can just kind of get from watching the Olympic Games and then go about our day and, do our less heroic things, but with a little more pride and oomph. And I think that's what she's provided a lot of people. How about you? What's been your big shining moment from these games?
There are so many, but as a Black woman, seeing Layla Edwards be the first Black woman to compete in the Olympics for Team USA hockey, and the first Black woman to score for Team USA in Olympic play is amazing. I mean, we talked with Layla Edwards earlier this year. We have an interview up on our YouTube page if anyone wants to go take a look at it. And she talked about, she understands the history that she would be making and that she has made. And also just the heaviness of being often, obviously in making this history this late in women's hockey, but being often the only Black woman that is on the ice. And so seeing her do that has been phenomenal, nothing short of amazing. And she's opened up so many doors for so many Black women after her to do the same thing. I would also say too, and this was something that just kind of blew my mind, is Vail's Sarah Shepler. She is a skier, and she's the oldest female alpine skier to compete in Olympic Games at 46. She also became part of the first mother-son duo to compete at the Olympics, which this is crazy. You can actually look up photos of her on the snow skiing with a toddler right beside her as she's training, right? And that is her son, who has also made his Olympic debut. His name is Lace Gasiola, and he made his debut in the giant slalom on Saturday. And just to think that not only have you like trained your whole life, you also had a son. Now your son is literally skiing alongside of you in the Olympics. That's an amazing story.
So we've known Schlepper. I've known her for like 20 years, always a riot, life of the party. And Lasse, her son, I mean, super special moment. They were walking in the opening ceremony together. I think she saw perspective of the whole thing, right? Huge moment just for the age factor. We've had a lot of ages in here. There's a 52-year-old. Is she a snowboarder, skier cross?
Snowboarder.
Snowboarder. You have Nick Baumgartner, who's a 44-year-old, and he told you that right on screen. He was like, I'm 50. Remember that Molly Shannon on SNL, I'm 50. So he was announcing it to everyone. I'm 44 and I love this sport so much. And you couldn't help but fall in love with them. It's just the perspective of being in the moment and taking part. And that's always been what the Olympic Games are about in its essence. We get caught up in podiums and those moments, but you peel back the layers of winning and first, second, and third, and you see the stories that are unfolding. So Schlepper's story with her son Lasse, phenomenal. And I hope those resonate with people and remind people that you can do brave and bold things, at any age. And even Lindsey Vonn, to an extent, right? In her 40s, and she knew the risk, but just deciding to do the scary stuff, take care of yourself and be safe, but go ahead and keep going for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talked about just the things that are important in addition to making a podium. It's also passing it on to the next generation. And Chloe Kim did that. She won silver, and Choi actually won the gold. But what was so amazing to me about that is right after they competed, Chloe Kim ran over. She gave her a big hug, like all the accolades of winning the gold. And it was really important to her to see that as well, because Chloe Kim and her father actually helped her come over to the US and train, which is a huge thing. So listen, if you're not going to win the gold, seeing somebody that you have helped and inspire win the gold is probably, in my opinion, like the next best thing. And it's really what you want to do as an athlete too, is to inspire that athlete to come up and to, I'm sure she wanted to win the gold, obviously, but to see somebody do that you have inspired is the next level. It's just a protege, really, in a lot of ways, to see that. So that was something that I certainly loved seeing.
Yeah, we've seen incredible sportsmanship, like gold medal sportsmanship at these games. I mean, my husband and I have personally been in this moment where the pressure was so overwhelming. I could barely swallow it. It was, it's almost paralyzing to a certain point. And when I watched Ilya, and these moments, I almost get to the point, my husband's the same way too, where we just want to know the results so that we can watch it without worry, right? Or decide if we want to watch it. But we're cheering for him so much, just kind of like Otley in the slalom earlier today. And but the sportsmanship that I saw from Ilya is kind of what you're talking about with Chloe Kim, how immediately after that moment, which we all felt was like, we felt so bad for him and heartbreak for him, but he immediately goes over to the gold medalist, the shocked gold medalist, and hugs him for this really long time, and then does a gracious interview. Yeah, I'm mostly impressed. Yes, I'm impressed with these athletic feats, but I'm impressed with the human beings on display in these moments of sport. It's been outstanding.
It has certainly been outstanding, and we're going to continue to watch the Winter Olympic Games. But something else we've been watching all season and reporting on right here on We Need to Talk Now is women's college basketball. And we're going to talk a little ball when we come back after this break. Welcome back to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. We've talked a lot about the Winter Olympics, as we should, but we're going to get into a little basketball in this week's Guarantee of the Week, presented by AT&T. And what we're going to guarantee is who we think is going to be in the Final Four. I specifically have, we got to talk about Texas a little bit when it comes to this, but when we look at women's college basketball right now, yes, for sure, UConn, they have it on lock. They are currently the only undefeated team that is still out there right now in women's college basketball. Definitely a team that has been at the top spot all year and will continue to be. If you look at the schedule and also just like what's going on in those top spots, yes, absolutely, UConn is there. Number two, I'm going to go with UCLA. UCLA haven't lost since November 26th, which is a very long time in this field of women's college basketball right now. They almost lost to number 7 Michigan, but they won by 3 points last Sunday. They're 14-0 in Big Ten play, and they're on an 18-game winning streak. That leads us to South Carolina. South Carolina had a huge game yesterday, on Saturday. If you didn't see it, it was the 18th straight win that the Gamecocks have had over LSU. The 500th career win for Dawn Staley. History was definitely made there, and history was made in another way because it was the first ever women's college basketball regular season game aired in the Saturday prime time slot, which is huge. One thing I loved about claps all around Summer. One thing I loved about this particular game is that it was a very good competitive game. South Carolina definitely, won down the stretch. There was some amazing play by their players, but if you looked at the stat sheets, LSU, besides the free throws, Kim Mulkey talked about that. They had a relatively good game themselves, and it was very competitive. And I love that people were able to see what's happening in women's college basketball and the competitiveness in that primetime slot. And we're going to see more of that to come. But outside of those 3 teams, honestly, Summer, that 4th spot, it could really go to anybody. That's what I am loving about this play right now. You're going Michigan?
No, I'm asking you. I like how Michigan fights and has pushed teams. Do you think they could be 4? I guess it depends on where it all stacks up.
Yeah, it really depends on where it all snacks up, but they could definitely sneak in there. They almost took UCLA in overtime, have been one of the Big Ten's sleepers teams when it comes to that, and consistently in the top 10. There are other teams that could sneak in there too. I mean, Texas has traditionally been in that 4th spot or in one of those 4th spots throughout the season. But they're struggling right now. Not really sure about Texas, unfortunately, and that pains me because people know Jordan Lee, who's on the team. I used to babysit her, so I'm very partial to her, and I'm just going to be completely honest. But they hardly beat number 22 Tennessee. They lost to Vanderbilt, and outside of beating LSU, the wins have not been strong. Really have not been strong after their loss. Their own coach, Vic Schaefer, said that the team had no heart. And so there's that's got to be hard as a player, right? To hear that. A couple of coaches have been doing that.
And I think that shows. And I think it's real when a coach is honest with their players because they have a chance to turn it around. I like a player who seems to always play with heart. And so I'll just go with a certain player on that team that I think can be a difference maker to the whole team and could possibly, I don't know. I love the Cinderella stories. I love the surprises of March Madness. But Audie Crooks, I just have always loved the way she plays. She leaves everything on the court. She plays with passion. And I do feel like she is a player on that team that I know we were talking about it earlier. Iowa State has not been the team they started out the season as, but there are certain players that you never count them out, right? At that on that big stage. And we just got done talking about the Olympic Games. There are certain athletes that show up when it's real big. It's a huge moment. Excuse me. And they're always there. And I feel like she's the one. The other player, and UConn's always there. And I love Gino and what he, seems to bring together with every single iteration of his team. But Sarah Strong came into this season as, the one to watch, so many expectations. And Alicia, has she exceeded those expectations or what? I mean, in every sector of the sport. And again, going back to the Olympics, let's just remind people how difficult that is to do when you have the pressure on you. And she's doing it in a team environment where there's history of expectation. So I'm impressed with both those players. And I think that could be difference makers when your back is against the wall.
Absolutely. When you talk about Audie, she's second in the country in scoring. She leads the Cyclones in points. She averages 25.3 points per game and 7.6 rebounds per game. And then Sarah Strong, one of the things that I love about her, she leads UConn in all but assists. But one thing I love that I'm seeing, and just as a sophomore, right, is her leadership skills that are forming. She came in unafraid. She's been a player that I've always loved to watch because she leaves it all out on the court and she doesn't have, it doesn't seem from the outside looking in that she has fear. We don't know what's really going on, but from the way it looks, she doesn't. And now, in addition to all of those amazing qualities that she has as a basketball player, she's adding that leadership to her game. And it's really amazing to watch. And it's one of the things that, as one of the greatest basketball players of all time, which I believe she will be, and is already in the conversation for, that you need, especially playing on that UConn team. As you progress, becoming more and more of the leader that they need and that they really push when it comes to UConn basketball. We've seen that time and time again. Some players that I really, really I'm going to keep my eye out on, and especially after that game with South Carolina and LSU, is Johnson and Johnson. Okay. Tessa Johnson and Raven Johnson, they both showed out in that game on Saturday. And in particular, Raven, this is her last year in college. She's been doing big things with South Carolina. And I just see her having a big end to the season and also a big tournament when it comes to the NCAA. A career high 19 points in the primetime win. And also, listen, Dawn Staley said this about Raven Johnson. Raven Johnson is a winner. Look it up in the dictionary. Look it up on your iPhones. She makes winning plays, and she did that tonight. She's probably the one that I'll miss the most. And when you think about all of the players that Dawn Staley has coached, to have that said about you, I'm a watcher for sure. Continue to watch her. I've been watching her, but Raven Johnson is somebody that I have on my radar. But Summer, I don't know about you, but watching this season, the thing that I'm excited for the most when it comes to the tournament is that, as we talked about, like, those three teams have been locked in, but that fourth spot is open, and really all the spots are open underneath because there's so much parity in women's college basketball, and people are just coming for the team they play. I think it's going to be the year of the upset.
Yeah, I love that. And, an upset, what does that come down to? Of course, there's talent on every team, but the upset is the joy of the game and the heart of the team and who you're playing for, right? The heart and the grind. So when you talk about Dawn Staley and her love for Raven, it's like what's showing out in Raven is her heart. I don't know if you can teach heart, and maybe you can coach heart. Maybe it is infectious, and Raven will like infect the team, and that's what you'll see. But greatness and the love of your game is kind of reconnecting to when you were a kid. And I had to do that moment, Alicia, right before I won my gold medal. We were talking about the pressures of everything. So yeah, if these teams can just like peel away the pressure and expectation and possibly what people are saying, and quit reading about yourself or what you should be, and get down to the heart of why you do it and who you do it for. That's when greatness happens, and that's when upsets can happen. So I love that for women's sports. I love the fact that we have more teams in the mix than a UConn and a Tennessee. It's like all of these teams. I mean, I even said to it earlier, Utah was doing well in the beginning of the season, and that's where I live. My daughter goes to the University of Utah. I loved seeing that name in the mix, and it's good for the sport.
It's definitely good for the sport. And, you know, we talk basketball almost every single show right here on We Need to Talk Now, and we will continue to do that. But when we come back, we're going to go back to the Winter Olympics and talk about a woman who is making history. So we'll see you after this break. Welcome back to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. And Summer, I didn't want to end this show without talking to you about a special moment when you were watching the opening ceremonies of the Winter Olympics. Why was it so special?
Yeah, it started off in the most special way, personally for me, but I just felt like watching my fellow Olympic swimmer, Kirsty Coventry, who is the first female president of the IOC, the first African president of the IOC, the significance of her words at the opening ceremony. And I mean, maybe I was just reading into it, but I really felt like the athletes were hanging on her every word. Her message, of course, was about achieve your dreams and go for the gold, but it was so much about kind of what I was talking to you about, Alicia, that the real like the Olympic motto is not about winning gold. It's about taking part. It's about being a part of this family forever. It's about being the beacon of hope in the complexity of our world, to give the world things to cheer for, the world things to be passionate about, and bringing us all together. And that these athletes really were that catalyst. I just felt like it was so beautiful and inspiring, and she nailed it. And I was so proud of her and proud of that Olympic moment.
Yeah, one thing when I was reading up on her, the moment, everything, is that she wants to be a beacon of inclusivity and unity and ensure the games are truly for everyone. She plans to empower athletes, promote social equity, and to focus on feminism and gender equality, which we definitely need in all facets of sport. But to see her become the first ever female president of the IOC is something that I hope we see, you know, for years to come. Whenever she's, I don't know how that works. Maybe you can speak more to that, but for whenever she's not going to be, I hope that there are other women that follow in her footsteps. It's always hard for me, you know, it is 2026, and to say that that is the first female to do it, it's hard, but it's also a celebration because we know that things are changing, and that we will see another female step into her shoes one day.
Yeah, her impact will be long lasting. But it's interesting, when we had our We Need to Talk show just last week, we were talking about National Girls and Women's Sports Day and the significant moments that we've seen. And I think we always talk about it will be so significant when we don't talk about the firsts. And what's significant about these Winter Games is it's the first Winter Games that's gender equal. And we haven't heard that in the media at all. So maybe women's sports is finally there.
Absolutely. We've come so far and we have so far to go, but thank you so much for joining us right here on We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T, and we will see you next week.